Welcome back to the PCC Podcast. And today I have a very special guest, my husband, Aaron, the behind the scenes man who no one ever sees unless you're a part of the team here.
Yeah, well, happy to be here. And I know this is going to be really exciting for some people. And yeah, just really happy to answer all of these questions that came in about us because, yeah, like you said, not super front facing, but have a lot of insight onto the business and everything that goes on around here. So happy to be here.
Yeah, cool. We got some really cool questions. So this is episode 100, and I wanted to do something special for this episode, beyond even just like having my husband on as a guest, which is awesome. We're going to be doing a $100 gift card giveaway for this episode for the 100th episode. And all you have to do to enter the giveaway is rate and review the podcast, because this is something that really is a resource for all of our clients, but it can be a resource for people beyond that too. So rate and review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify before the end of the month. And with that, we will count up however many people do that. Just make sure your name is on the review, and then we'll reach out to you for one winner to win a $100 Amazon, Target, whatever gift card that you would like for being a listener here. So yeah, just wanted to start with that. But we asked our staff to ask us questions for this episode of just like, what do you guys want to know about us, working with us, our vision, what's it like to work together, and just like all the things that like they don't have the opportunity to ask on meetings, or like have just always wondered, but it was never like relevant to ask. This was the space for it. So I'm super excited to get into it. So let me pull up the questions. Do you want to pick the first one?
Sure. Let's go with, what's a lesson or two that we've had to learn the hard way?
Okay, we're starting
strong.
We're starting deep.
Yeah.
I think like obviously interpreting this question from like a business standpoint is what we'll do for this whole podcast, like business and clients. But I think really it's like a theme that I've actually had to learn this lesson the hard way, like multiple times. I think just devaluing myself, whether it be like monetarily, like literally not paying myself or us the proportion that we should from the business's revenue. That went on for a very long time. That was not an isolated instance. That was like many, many months of time. And then I think also like devaluing myself in the sense of like my vision, my message, what I have to offer to lead a company. I think that I have always like really loved having a team, and probably just valued that, like overvalued that to where I would forget like what I'm good at or what, you know, I want to talk about on social media. And I would kind of make it about the people that were on the team instead of my vision and myself. And like everyone was there because they wanted to work for me and hear from me. And I think it actually, you know, places an unnecessary amount of pressure on those people. But at the same time, like just misses the whole point of like, why would I run a business if it wasn't what I wanted? So just had to learn that a bunch of different ways, bunch of different people, bunch of different situations. And I think 2025 is the year where I finally was like, if I'm going to run a business, I need it to like reflect me.
But for me, yes, same, different, kind of all the things, but mainly just the fact of how important culture is, and the fact of we've had employees in the past that haven't always fit it. So just recognizing that earlier was something that we definitely missed out on, really making that like from the get-go and making sure that the staff that we did have aligned with, again, not just where we wanted the business to go, but with the values that we wanted to uphold and things like that, and our core values, and making that real apparent in the company and holding everybody to that high standard that I know we have for ourselves within that. So
Yeah,
that's the big lesson we had to learn the hard way.
definitely. And like ignored hearing that from outside sources for a long time.
Hired a bunch of mentors that
basically told us the same thing over and over again
and didn't listen. So
yeah.
So we had to learn it the hard way, when even during a time where we could have learned it the easy way and just took somebody's advice, but it was still, I think, a lesson that we had to learn the hard way. And I think we are better for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, also too, like I think coming with that, like just like being too nice, and like that nice doesn't equal kind, and nice doesn't equal productive or helpful or useful. Like I just would avoid conflict to the point where like it would hurt everyone and not just us. So I think that's another, like it's a subcategory of all of that. Okay. That was a good first one. And by the way, our team submitted these anonymously, so we have no idea who on our team submitted what. But these are good questions. So, Aaron, how did you manage putting your career on hold to dive into PCC fully with Marissa? Was this a hard process?
I managed it by honestly thinking of the worst case scenario wasn't that bad. And what I really mean by that is the worst case scenario was that it didn't work and I would just go back to corporate. And kind of weird to say, but yeah, getting back and finding a job wouldn't have been that hard. Just because we had friends, we knew a good amount of people that I could get a job back with at almost at any point during it. So it was like in that sense, kind of privileged in that fact of it was a little bit of an easier job because not that I had job security within it, but there were options outside of it that were already kind of laid out. So yeah, the option would have just been going back to a 9 to 5, and so it wouldn't even been that bad. But the upside of it was way greater than that too. So the possibilities that we were seeing at the time, the amount of growth that we were seeing at the time, just kind of made that an easier decision too. But also remembering that at the end of the day, you could always go back and find another job. So
Yeah. Well, I think that's a hard, like it's easier said than done.
it is. But,
Like, cause of like, I think a lot of people can say that, but like actually doing it and landing the job is so much different.
but I think like even more insight into it, I remember this whole like up until this point, Marissa and I had been dating for 3 years, just about
Yeah.
up until this point. And I remember like about a year and a half into it, like not knowing anything about the fitness space or the online coaching space. And I just, in my own mind, like saw it as like, oh, this is like fun side job thing that she gets to do while she also works 2 other jobs with like various labs or whatever she was doing at Mason at the time. But I was like, yeah, my sole mission is to make enough money that she could just keep doing this without knowing the possibilities that this space even had. So
Yeah.
it was just funny insight into that too.
Yeah.
But
I mean, just for the listener, like tell them what you did before this.
I
Different.
just worked in IT. So
Yeah. For the Department of State.
Yeah.
But like, was it a hard process? Like emotionally, mentally, more so then? Because tactically, it sounds like it was easy.
Yeah, I mean, emotionally, one, I think this will probably bleed into answering a few other questions, but yeah, there was just a lot of learning curves very quickly that we had to navigate with working with each other. So
I'll do that. I'll go into that one.
Yeah, we'll go into that a little bit. But so yeah, like emotionally, kind of letting go of quote unquote my career was. Yeah, it wasn't super easy, but at the end of the day, we were already on track. And at least in my mind at the time, it wasn't going to be a me much longer. It was always going to be a we.
Yeah, we weren't engaged at this time. We weren't
even engaged yet, but I was already planning on it.
Yeah.
And everything. So I already knew you were the one.
Aww.
So I was already looking at it from a lens of we, not just me. So that kind of helped a little bit too there, but definitely didn't come without its headaches and ups and downs. So,
yeah. Cool. All right, your turn. Pick one.
What has been your most challenging personal struggle with health and fitness? Let's just step outside of the business for a sec.
Personal struggle with health and fitness.
I can go first.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. I'm fat. Like mentally.
Well, not right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like mentally, like I can be. So just background into that. Like I didn't grow up. Like I grew up playing sports, played tennis and beach volleyball. More so tennis growing up at a decently high level, but didn't know jack squat about nutrition or anything like that. So my post-practice meals or anything like that usually ended up being like Wendy's with my dad or just eating some type of fast food. So nutrition wasn't really part of the conversation per se. So my relationship with kind of health and fitness at the time was just, yeah, I mean, I move enough. I'm a growing dude, so I can essentially eat whatever I want and not put on pounds. But then through the corporate space and working through that, and I did work night shift for a good amount of time within it. Saw a lot of things happen to my body, put on a good amount of weight. I think like 60 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
So because I kept up some of the same habits, didn't realize that there was really sugar in soda at the time. All of this is wild to say out loud, but yeah. Then I still have tendencies. I still like fast food.
Mm-hmm.
Still eat it sometimes, but yeah, it's just a different mindset into it now.
You still gag when you eat vegetables.
Yeah, vegetables are important. Yeah, still have that, but
yeah. Well, I think it's also like a really good example of the fact that like it's such a long process.
mm-hmm.
Like you only learned like what macros were and how to track them like when we were like starting to date, and then you got curious like 6 months after we started dating, like, oh, I want to track my macros. And like even to this day, like what, September, October will be like 7 years
Mm-hmm.
that we've been dating or met and all that. And like you still struggle with vegetables, like, and I think that's just and that's just a reminder of like, you know, if you're impatient with the journey, like here's someone who literally like co-owns this business and still struggles with that too, and has lost 60 pounds and kept it off.
Yep.
So challenging personal struggle with health and fitness. I mean, like aside from like origin story, like that was a tough time, but I will say it didn't last for as long as this other example has. And like it was the spark and it was a dark moment, but I think it was like not easy to come out of, but like once I found the right information, it was easier to come out of like restrictive eating and over exercising and things. And because I was so passionate about it anyways, that like it just kind of flowed. And probably because it was meant to be. But I think for me, it's been like the learning how to do health and fitness outside of athletics and having specific goals and things like that. Like right now, training for this half marathon, like it's easy. Like it's easy again. Like I have to do it. It's non-negotiable. I don't have to think. Like if you don't do it, you're just going to be really underprepared, and like that's not an outcome that like I want. So to me, it's mandatory. But like showing up when it's just I'm going to the gym for like my own physique or fitness goals, like it's so much more intangible. I think a lot of like ex-athletes can attest to the fact that like it makes sense to like you have these required practices and strength sessions and conditioning when you're training for your sport. But you know, once it becomes a lifestyle, it's like you're just showing up for you. And that sounds wrong because it's like that's so important to show up for you, but like it feels like less because it's not this like exact goal. So I think that like just in the process of like growing and scaling the business, like having real responsibilities in life and then having to navigate that has always kind of been up and down. And like, I think I'm hard on myself in the sense that I never live up to the standard in my head of like where I'd want that to be, but like actually coming to terms with what does it mean to live the lifestyle instead of like going to extremes or being perfect, is probably what has been the most challenging over the past like 4 years of growing PCC.
Still growing.
Yeah.
So,
my turn. Let's do this. There's like 8 questions on here that our team asked about what's it like running a business together? How has it changed over the years? What's your favorite part about working together? Your biggest piece of advice for someone who's working with their significant other? Hardest part of running a business together, etc. There's like 5 or 6 of these. So we'll do that one.
yeah, go for it. So let's just go with what is it like running a business together and how has that changed over the years? Well, 1, it's fun.
Yeah.
2, it's a headache. 3, it's hard. 4, it's just a great time. So it's all of the things. So and just to kind of break it all down, I love working with my wife, and it's one of the greatest joys that we could ever have. But especially in the beginning, It had its communication hangups. It had its expectation hangups that we weren't always aligned in what we expected out of each other, what we communicated with each other, and all of the things. So that definitely in the beginning, I would say first year and a half at least,
Yeah.
created not unnecessary because it was necessary in the long run, but it created a certain amount of tension. And yeah, but wouldn't trade it for the world now. And always knew that this was not like we always knew, but there was always a voice in my head at least that always pointed towards this is the right move. So, and it allows us a certain level of freedom that hopefully we never take for granted, but we definitely have in the past.
Yeah.
So, but continuing to work on that as well. So, yeah, it's all of the things.
Yeah. What a lot of people probably don't know, unless you're like a very long time client or listener of the podcast or at PCC, is Aaron was a coach at PCC at first. So when we first started like really scaling the business and I really started to take it seriously as a business was 2021. And outside of hiring Tara, who is our executive assistant, who's still with us today, and she's amazing. Aaron was like the first hire after that. And it was basically just like, we're taking on clients so quickly because we've never like actually marketed or had real sales systems before. So all these people were coming on. I had like 50 clients on my roster, and like my mentors were basically telling me like, you need to like not coach so much and like run the business. So I was like, okay, so I need to hire a coach. And he was there and willing. And we were like, well, you know plenty about health and fitness. Like we're aligned in our values. Like you want to do it. And like, I didn't know jack squat about running a business at that time, to be totally honest. I didn't know anything about scaling. I didn't know anything about leadership. So it was basically just like dumping a bunch of clients on him and being like, here you go. But also because like we're together, I don't want to have to coach you as if I'm your boss. So I'm just going to give you these clients and like expect that you're going to do a great job without giving you any leadership, mentorship, guidance, or oversight.
And the best part about this is when all of this was happening as well, I was still at my corporate job.
Yeah.
So I was still working that, and I took toggle demotion so that I could free up a little bit of hours, like in the middle of the day, things like that, and switch shifts, just kind of move things around because I knew I was going to leave anyway. So they dumped. Just dump these clients on me. Say, hey, I know you have a job, a regular job too, but hey, can we do this?
I was like, I take a lot of responsibility for that part because obviously it's a two-way street and like there's areas that you contributed to, but I look back and I'm so glad we can laugh about it because it really was like, that was the expectation that I held in my head was like, I think it's weird to like be your boss. So like, I'm just not gonna do it. And I'm going to treat you differently than everyone else who's working in the company who has the same role as you, even though that's a double standard and is unfair. So yeah, it was a mess for a little bit, but the clients still did like well in general with you. It's just like the systems weren't there and like the communication wasn't there.
That was just a kind of company quote unquote because there was like 3 of us at the time.
Yeah.
But company wide, we didn't have any real systems in general. But yeah, it's just a learning.
Yeah.
We just needed to just figure it out at the time. And there's no playbook that kind of we have now for coaches. So in a way, it's a good thing because we learned through that. Because like you mentioned, like the boss employee dynamic would never work between us two.
Yeah. Well, can I explain that? Because like what I always say is like, because especially when like our staff meets us in person or like people kind of ask about this, it's like they assume and like people typically jump to the conclusion, I think just because of like my Instagram and the business and yada yada, that like I call the shots, like, or I wear the pants all the time or whatever. And like in our like actual relationship dynamic, it's like pretty much flipped. Like I just like delegate or divert a lot of like decision making to you or just kind of like trust your guidance and your leadership in like life stuff. And so it's like a really hard 180. It was like a really difficult 180 for me to grasp like mentally and emotionally that I just wasn't ready for. And so I think like once that coaching role fizzled out and you phased out of that, like it was figuring out like, how do we have a dynamic in the business, or like put those hats on versus like real life, and like still keep it consistent. Cause that was really hard for me.
Yep.
Biggest piece of advice you'd give to someone working with their significant other?
Talk more than you think you need to, or definitely talk more than you want to. So that's my biggest thing. And again, I'm trying to be a little bit more talkative here, so I'll elaborate a little bit, but because that could be the end of my answer. Essentially, just make sure that no matter what, you're always just communicating what you need, what you want, where you want things to be, and it will all find its way together as long as you're constantly communicating, because it will never necessarily be easy. It's a business, so it's nothing about it is easy. So, like they say, if it was easy, everybody would do it. But if you have a really open line of communication, that's the biggest thing.
I think just on that same thread, like having hard conversations early. It was funny. We had our staff in town like a couple weeks ago, but they came in town and we did this exercise called a personal operating manual, where we like all kind of answer questions around like, how do you work best? How do you communicate best? All these things. And like, it's funny because both of us and like a lot of people on the team had this pet peeve of like, don't let stuff simmer. Like, don't, like, if you have an issue, bring it up immediately, have a conversation before it turns into this big festering thing that you like explode. And like, that was my pet peeve. It was your pet peeve. It was like everyone's pet peeve. And it's funny because like, I did that when we started working together. And like, we just didn't communicate the way that we should have because we didn't know how much we should have, or it was uncomfortable.
It's just the fact that you don't know, like 5 years ago, we just didn't know these things.
We didn't know anything.
So it's just like in the moment, we're kind of just like picking up, like kind of racking our brains, trying to figure out what all this is, letting things fester. But it's just because we didn't know. Like, a lot of it too is just be patient is another lesson I'll kind of point at it, as long as it's what you both want and what you both want to do, and the greater vision for whatever business it is can fit both of you, then just keep at it if that's what you want. But continue to have conversations over time, but also be patient, and be patient not just with each other, but with yourselves too.
Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
I was thinking about that one.
Yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head what yours is?
Yeah. Make a decision. Stick to it. That's it.
Where does that come from though? Like, did someone give it to you, or is it just like, where did you apply that recently?
Well, more so recently, it was, one, it got you into running your half marathon and your marathon this year. But for me, that snap decision got me into running in general and running my ultra last year, of just making a decision like, hey, I want to do this and I'm just going to do it. But it also applied to, if I want to go way back to just moving out of my parents' house and moving up to Northern Virginia in the first place, that's a whole another story for a different day. But just making a decision and figuring it out. But once the decision's made, just do all you can to stick to it and work towards it. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is like, when it, like if I put it in like a health and fitness context of like, I'm going to get in shape, or I'm going to commit to a program, or I'm going to do a thing. It's like, we do so much to like overcomplicate the decision of like, what if that, how about this? What about that angle? What about that angle? And it's just like, I remember when I posted a reel about this, but essentially like I was just having a horrible mental health season, to be honest, but it was a really bad day. That day, it was a Saturday. It was right before Memorial Day. And we decided to go on a run, I think because I was just like really depressed, and you were like, you need to move. You were like, you need to sweat. And I was like, okay. So I was like dragging my feet, and we go on this 3-mile run around the neighborhood. It was awful. And I was really out of shape, like cardiovascularly. And I just remember like thinking about, wow, I would love to like run some sort of race because you had done your 40 like 6 months before that. And then I was back and forth, like, should I do like a half marathon? Like, I don't know, like, what about this? I'm not going to stick with it. And like all this self-talk. And then I just out loud was just like, fuck it. And he looked at me. We were running at the time, but I just said, fuck it. And he was like, what? And I was like, I'm going to do a half marathon or a marathon. I don't remember which one I said, but that was like the moment where it was like, that was the decision. It was that simple. It can be that simple. You can overthink it all you want, but at the end of the day, like, you just have to make that choice. I think for mine, it's hard, like, best piece of advice you've ever been given. I'd have to really like stew on that one for a long time, that I don't want to sit here in silence for 40 minutes on a podcast figuring out. Yeah. So I'll just give the best one that I've gotten in the past like year. Healing happens in the action. I think this past, honestly, it's like year to date, like July, August, was probably the hardest year in like business and just like adulthood that I've probably had yet. It felt like the business was imploding, and everything that I had worked for felt like it was for nothing, and like just a lot of questioning, like purpose and reality and type of things. And it left me really scarred and scared to like do anything. And so like we were just stagnant at this like one specific, like, the best way to track business growth honestly is like revenue, even though that doesn't mean everything about the business. But like we were stuck in a lot of ways, in like bringing on new clients, in retention, in revenue, in, team, everything, for like 6 months after that. And I just remember like being so on the fence with like making some bigger changes, investing in some mentors, like things that would actively move us forward. And there was so much fear that was just consuming me. And I just remember reading Healing Happens in the Action. And for whatever reason, that just like stuck with me for a really long time. Like it just like really stuck out. It jumped off the page. And it really kind of clicked to where like if you stay stuck in the fear, then like you never actually heal. Mm-hmm. And so like for me, it was like taking the next step, doing the scary things, assuming, let's say, more risk even after, getting burned, was the step that I needed to take there.
Sure.
What's something we prioritize when looking to hire that you didn't used to?
To say it in a funny way, vibes.
I mean, yeah.
But deeper than that, looking at culture fit has always been, well, not always been, but more recently has really been what we lean on to make sure that, because there's not much on the team that we can't teach or coach somebody how to do.
Yeah.
But their personality, culture fit, all of the things there really determines who the person is, just how they work, the standards that they hold from themselves are more important there than their tactical skills, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. Like, other than that, I think just like I've gotten more discerning over time, because you just don't know. Like you reps, like you hire people, people leave, you fire them, whatever. And you just learn from the reps. And the thing is like with clients, it's like we bring on like so many clients per month. With hires, it's like maybe you bring on a couple people a year. Mm-hmm. So you just don't get the reps the same way. So like, I think one thing I prioritize when looking to hire that I didn't used to is your advice and your read. Cause like his super special talent is like, can just immediately like read someone head to toe, like based on, body language, what they're saying, reading between the lines, just like the vibes, like you said, like you're really good at that.
It took a lot of time.
Well, you're better than me at it too.
Yeah. It was just because it's a superpower / skill that has been developed, just because for some reason I still remember the day I had somebody tell me about like body language hacks or something like that on how to get a read. Honestly, if I had to trace it back, it was probably on how to pick up girls. You can look at their body language, you can figure all of this out just without them even saying a word. And I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting. So learned it a little bit, obviously, then used it for maybe not the best reasons, but but then here we are now. But I think it's always stuck with me just in how I engage with people and get a read on people, kind of developing social cues from there as well. Because you can, if you're paying attention, you can really figure out when people that you're around are either uncomfortable or super excited or anything like that. So,
but I mean, it's also like, it's one thing to like hear that and like actually be able to apply it. Yeah. So like you do have a talent for that, but I feel like I've learned a lot about that from you. I'm starting to get better at that, but I definitely like lean on you more for like, I really do, you know, want your full kind of read on the situation too. Cause like we joke, but like in hindsight, a lot of like key hires and decisions, like you've made the call faster than I have by a landslide. And it just takes me like miles and miles to get there, or like even mistakes to get there.
Yeah. Which is funny considering our actual dynamic of you being, or just me being a little bit of the overthinker and you being like a more snap decision maker, just in life.
Yeah.
Like in like regular life, it's just funny.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that just shows, I think, how good you are at that. But I would also say like prioritizing when hiring. I think I also look for like granularity is the best word I can use to describe it, but like how specific someone is with things. Like I can think of like the last coach that we brought on asked very pointed and specific questions about like things that we did, how we operate, how things worked within the company. She did her research. She knew like, she was like really showed that she had like, she wanted to be on this team and like that this was the vision for her, versus like, I don't know, speaking in generalities or like beating around the bush of like, how do you handle, like if I were to ask like, how do you handle stress or like, how do you deal with X, Y, and Z? And if I get a bunch of stuff where like, I don't feel like a question was answered, like that's my red flag. It's like, I need an example of like, if this happens, I do X, Y, and Z. Like it shows me that someone has systems. It shows me that someone can like pinpoint things. Because specificity and communication is something across any role in the team that's really important. So
we can only eat one food for the rest of our life. What would it be?
And it says, doesn't have to be a steak or an apple. It can be, for instance, ramen, lasagna, or multi-ingredient meals. Do you know yours? This is hard. Yeah, oh my gosh. One food for the rest of my life. Well, it has to be something that you can put a lot of things into.
I mean, mine would be some type of soup with noodles in it.
So like a ramen?
Yeah. Ramen or pho, or anything with noodles, soup, and meat. I'm good.
I'm like torn between that and like bowls, like a poke bowl or something, because you can mix and match that. But there's not a ton of options with that either. Yeah, maybe it would be like a meat / veggie / rice type of bowl for like a practicality reason. Like you just have more variety that you could switch up with. But ramen is a close second. What is one thing that you've learned from clients that has changed the way that you coach or run PCC?
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, I feel like even just with like you coaching right now, like just disclosure, Aaron also coaches with another team for endurance specific coaching. But even just talking with you about coaching, like now that we're both in that seat, I think like number one is just the safety of the environment that they have to share is like the most important thing. Like if you don't have that, like you're not getting anywhere. Because if the client can't be honest with you about like if they're eating McDonald's every other day or if they, you know, are feeling like a failure versus a success, then like you can't coach someone who's hiding parts of the truth. And like really just, I think back to a couple of like key turning points with certain clients where like there was one where I kind of like took back some of the things, like I had kind of like gotten into this trap of just like pushing her and being like, we need to be doing this and we need to be doing this and you're not doing that. And that's why you're not seeing progress. And like, that was true, but like, it wasn't helpful because like she knew that and like, she was already down on herself. So like, I remember like the next week for the check-in, I basically said like, hey, just forget everything I said. Like, let's start with what like you are doing right now and like taking one step forward from there. And like, she was just like, thank you for that. I didn't know I needed that, but I really needed that, you know? And like, cause clients don't know what they don't know. So if you just come down hard on a client being like, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing that, that's why you're not seeing progress. Like, it's like, that's what they expect. Like, unfortunately, that's like what most of the industry is like, we were just watching that documentary on The Biggest Loser. And it's like, they're like, and that's like most like the 90s and 2000s was like what people thought fitness was too. That's what's really interesting about it. And I kept thinking about was like, that's what people think they're getting when they hire a coach is like, you're worthless, you're terrible, like you do better, you suck, like you're not trying hard enough. And like it's when you meet them with something that's not that, like they really realize like, oh wow, like this is actually coaching and like collaboration, not just shaming and, you know, pointing out the fact that you're not where you should be, which is what's going through their head. So I think that's a big one. And it keeps getting reinforced because like I coach coaches on my office hour with IFCA and manage our coaches here and like talk to you about your clients. And I think it's just like, if you don't have honesty and safety for them to like actually open up, like you don't have a coaching relationship. You're just telling someone what to do.
Yeah, I think along those same lines, it's from the get-go, getting them to realize that as me or Marissa, as their coach, we're on their side. It's about them and their success. It's not about me, because I can go on with my daily life like perfectly fine. Like essentially, if a client doesn't do quote unquote what they're supposed to, but on the flip side of just letting them know that hey, I'm on your side. We're trying to work together here to figure out what the best action steps are, things like that. It's more of a collaboration, but also it's a fine balance because you also have to hold a certain amount of authority and making sure that you can not tell them what to do, but you can kind of lay out the initial guideline, then from there find pieces that are more individualized for them to meet them where they're at, like you were mentioning. That's, I think, the biggest part is just meeting people where they're at, because it's such a variety for people out there in general. Just starting points, relationships with food are just so wide, but you need trust because they need to trust you that they have you have their best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And it all starts with that, because if they feel that it's not about them, they can pick up on that pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
they might not be able to mentally pick up on it, like think that, but like their gut and their
yeah,
nervous system.
their actions will show.
Yeah. Well, I think, and the question's actually worded really nicely where it's like the way you coach or run PCC, and that's actually like across the board. I think the biggest thing that we've done in 2025 that like you would think would like shrink the business, but actually is like contributing to more growth is the focus on quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
So like in our sales team, like you think of a traditional sales team and you think hit your numbers, you know, twist people's arms, make them buy, whatever. But it's not like we ever really did that. Like we've always had a lot of integrity in our sales process, but I guess just now even more than before, like just focusing so much on quality and relationships that like we want people to just feel the difference like as soon as they interact with like whoever the first person is. And that's really hard to do. Like when you really break down every single step that goes from like meeting someone online to getting on a call, having them actually sign up, delivering them results. Like there's so much trust that has to be built and kept. And like every little detail really does matter. So I think
is that the day we want people to want to be here.
Yeah.
Because we want people to succeed. We want people to see all the results that they want to see and live their best life. And essentially, if they don't want to be here, and it's even like it happens on sales calls, like we all say it, like if you feel like this isn't a good fit, like you don't want to do this, just tell us and we'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
So, but we will push if we feel like you want to be here. There's just some barriers that you might need to kind of like overcome mentally or anything like that. But we just genuinely want people to want to be here.
Yeah.
And that shows also in our like client success and all of that too. So
yeah, I remember having that happen, like not recently, but like a few months ago. There was one client in particular who was like starting to kind of create the story in her head that like we twisted her arm for her to be here, of like paying and signing up and all this stuff. But like the truth of the matter is, like, she had a lot of limiting beliefs and self-doubt and fear around joining. And so I challenged that. I challenged the shit out of that. But when that conversation came up, I said, okay, if that's like truly like what you believe, then like I want you to know that's not true. Like you can leave at any time. You know, we can cut off your payments. We can do all of that, because it wasn't true. And like I think that like integrity in that, being able to say like you don't like, you know, not being the stickler to the contract, I'm going to send you to collections, like helped rebuild that trust even more. Of she was like, no, actually I do want to be here. So like I'm gonna move forward. And like she had a total choice at that point. Like we weren't gonna hold her to anything, because it was like before the second week or something like that. But yeah, like we definitely want people to want to be here. We'll challenge the shit out of you before, during, after, but only for you, not for us. And I think that's been an attitude shift in the past year too, of like, we're not building this business to like get rich off of people's insecurities. Like, I mean, that's like what a lot of fitness businesses are.
It'd be a lot simpler that way.
It would be so much simpler that way. It would. But like, yeah, just like running a business with integrity, like really is challenging, because you have to like really think through every single interaction that you have in that way. But I think we're better for it. Like our clients are happier for it. They're getting better results for it. Maybe that means we don't bring as many people in each month, or we don't have the highest revenue of every business out there, but it's definitely more fulfilling. And like, that was kind of the come to Jesus for me, of like, I had to really ask myself, like, what kind of business do I want to run? And like, how do I want it to feel? You know? And that's, I think, where it was like misaligned in the past. So any others that you want to?
No, I think the only one we didn't touch on, I mean, the answer is, I think, more simple for you, but if you weren't running PCC, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
What do you mean it's more simple for me?
I don't know. Probably still be coaching, but maybe solo.
Dude, I have no idea what the answer to that question is. That's a good one to end on.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like, because I take that question as like, if I wasn't running PCC, like I'm not in this industry, you know, like I'm not going to take a cop out of like, I'd be an assistant coach somewhere else. Like I'd be like, what would I do?
I guess it's more simple for me then.
What would it be?
Like if none of this ever happened, we'd probably still be in DC.
Yeah.
We'd probably still be living up there. I'd probably still be working, climbing a good old Uncle Sam corporate ladder.
Yeah.
And all of that. But
that's fair. Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. I really don't know. Like that, because like there's nothing that like really has been like a solid answer. I just kind of throw things out there. But I have said I would try to be an author in the past for like science fiction. I also,
or I guess you could change the question a little bit from what do you think you'd be doing right now to what would you want to be doing?
Yeah. Well, if it's what you think you'd be doing, then like I actually might be like some PhD candidate, like researching in the lab.
Nerd.
Because I was on track for like all of that for a while. Possibly that. I don't think I'd enjoy that or want that. Knowing what I know now, like maybe be in like high ticket sales somewhere, high ticket remote sales, because I do love the psychology of helping people overcome limiting beliefs. It's just hard to find companies that you're like aligned with, that you actually believe in what they're selling. But when you do believe in what you're selling, you know, you can push people because it's in their best interest. But when you don't believe in what you're selling, it feels weird. Yeah, something like that. But I guess the good news is like not having a really great answer for that question. It's like, I'm definitely meant to be here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then that'll be it for today. Let us know if you guys liked this episode. Apologies for Bennett noises in the background at the beginning because he was really fussy and we had to put him up towards the beginning. But again, if you are listening at this point, remember to do the 100th episode giveaway. We'll put the details in the description of this podcast episode of what the final day to submit your entry is. Remember, an entry is just rating and reviewing the podcast. If you want some bonus entries, share the episode of this podcast to your stories and share it on your social media and help us get the word out. But
and I sometimes forget. Is this YouTube, Spotify, all of the things?
Everything. It's everywhere.
So like, follow, subscribe, smash that button, whatever it is. God, I love doing that. So just smash all of the buttons with the podcast, and we'll see you next time. I hope to be on soon.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. We know your attention is the most valuable resource that you could give us, and we'll see you back here for episode 101 next week.